So I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got into this area of interest, the land resources, the agricultural potential of the area, and as Dr. Kennelly, he grew up on the farm, so did I, near and dear to me too, and a little bit about, well, not a bit, a lot about the urban growth in the area, and finally, what can AIA do about this to help if we think we should. So back in, I think it was about 1982, the City of Edmonton annexed a huge area surrounding the city for future growth and expansion. That was about 37,000 hectares. And the idea was to, keep it in agriculture in the meantime, and as demand increases, it would be developed, urbanized, etc. So at that time, a small committee, I joined the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, and Jean Crepin, who used to run Norwest Labs at the time, and then became involved in others, and Jim Visser, a vegetable grower in the Northeast, and there were a few others there. We were this agriculture committee in the Chamber of Commerce, and every month we would review items of local and national interest and kind of report to the Chamber our thoughts, and it was quite an effective way of getting some of our ideas and messages to the Chamber executive and so on. And one of the topics that came along was these Northeast agricultural lands. So we spent a fair bit of time, did a lot of work, prepared a good brief, and on behalf of this group, I presented it to the Chamber executive at one meeting. We had a lively debate. As you might guess, I was promoting conservation. I had recently, before that, worked in BC and saw the agricultural land freeze take effect there. And there was talk about doing something similar in Alberta. And so this was a good opportunity to see if we could kick it off. Well, needless to say, at the Chamber executive, you have, a group of senior business types, some more philosophical than others. By the time our session was done, I was called a communist. And I was kind of hurt because, at heart I thought I was a capitalist growing up on the farm and so on. And for those of you youngsters here, communism had a much bigger bite in the 70s because we just came out of the Cold War during the 60s, and you saw what happened to Cuba. So it was a hot topic, and the best thanks I got from the executive was that this is the liveliest debate they ever had in the chamber. Anyway, things quietened down. The economic sort of crash downturn in the 80s took the development pressure off, and things were rather quiet for the next 10 years. But in the early 90s, things started to heat up again. And so the farming community there pressed the city to do a study to try and understand the agricultural potential of the area and so on. So I was hired along with a couple other people, Dr. Marv Anderson, who many of you I think know, ag economist for many years, and Olga Lovett, city planner. So we looked at the area, did a map, looked at the capability, irrigation potential, planning, urban implications. Marv handled the economics and so on. And we prepared that report, and that culminated with a presentation to City Council. The mayor at the time was Jan Reimer, and we had a good session there. Those of you who remember Tuka Gomberg, he was our main ally and cheerleader. But this was about June, I think, and Elections were coming in October and November, or whenever the city does their election. And so no decisions were made. It was kind of a stalemate. Nothing happened, and then things kind of quietened down for a number of years after that. It's kind of heated up again recently, and I'll get back to that in a bit. So to me, the importance of this area is the unique combination of resources. The land, the water, microclimate, the gardening hub that's in that area, and the proximity to the urban market. And in my view, this is not transferable. In terms of the agricultural land, it's wonderful topography, nearly level, gentle slopes to the kind of southeast and south, great for intensive, any kind of farming. The key soils that make this so special are two series, the Peace Hills and Ponoka. They're both nice black Chernozems. The Peace Hills is on glacial fluvial material. It's a sandier of the two. Topsoils are generally sandy loams. The subsoils range from sandy loam to loamy sand, even sand. There's about 650 hectares of this stuff, and one of the real advantages of the sandy soils for horticulture is when you harvest the potatoes or carrots or other root crops, the sand falls off. You're not hauling clay and having to wash it off, etc., to get it ready for market. The other series, Ponoka, is a little finer. It's kind of loam to silt loam, also good. And both these soils, the sandier ones for sure need irrigation. Here, it's not essential, but certainly beneficial. And you must remember that horticultural production is a very intensive operation. You don't want to have to depend on rainfall for making or breaking it. So irrigation is really critical here. And there's just over 3,000 hectares of this stuff. These hectareages come from the survey we did of the area, and the numbers may be a little different in the city reports, but it's all a matter of where the boundaries are. In terms of water, the North Saskatchewan River is the water supply. Good for irrigation. There's a lot of irrigation operations along there now, and certainly room for expansion. The key advantages there in this particular area are the minimal lift. The banks are only a few meters high there above the water, and it's a gradual slope kind of north and northwestward, and all this prime Ponoka, Peace Hills soils area is within a couple miles of the river. So it's in terms of pumping, irrigation cost, it doesn't get any better. The vegetable growers tend to use hand move systems. I think there's a couple pivots on the way, but without secure long-term ownership and zoning favoring agriculture, you can't expect people to invest big bucks in something that might not last too long. So this is the system that's commonly used. There's been a lot of discussion about microclimate. At the city council hearings, there was criticism that the farmers hadn't set up climate stations to demonstrate that this was in fact better. There is climate information from the agriculture facility there nearby, and that's kind of the best there is. And it shows that it's a little warmer than the Mayo or City of Edmonton or the airport. So the numbers are there to support it. But the other thing that the numbers don't tell you is the advantage of the sandier soils warming up faster in spring and allowing farmers to get on there a little earlier. Also, just from the farmers in the area, the bottom line is that they can start planting and harvesting their first carrots and other garden crops about 2 weeks earlier than elsewhere. We don't need climate stations to know that. The farmers know it. And just by our natural understanding of ecosystems and ecology, we know the north-facing slopes are colder than the south, and we're dealing with the south here. I'm going to jump ahead a bit to productivity, and I'm going to focus on some of the horticultural crops. These numbers come off Alberta Agriculture website, and these are average numbers for the province for production of these crops. So I have no doubt that with good management and irrigation, numbers could be substantially higher, and in bad years, of course, they can be lower. The prices, about 2/3 of these also come off the government website, and the rest that weren't there, I went to the farmers market a couple times and checked out the prices there. So these prices, dollars per kilogram, are what you pay if you go to the farmer's market to buy these. It's not wholesale price from the farmer or you pick or whatever. So depending on how the marketing is handled, it might not all be the farmer's income. There might be one or two middlemen along the way. Regardless, the dollars on the far right represent the money going from the food buyer to the community in Edmonton. I was astounded when I first did these calculations. I had no idea there could be so much money made on a hectare of land. So depending on what you grow, and of course you need rotations and depends on market demand and so on, but you can see values range from 17 to over 200,000 per hectare per year. This is how they look at the farmer's market. Comparing this to other crops, the conventional annual crops, about 1,200 a hectare. This is the wheat, oats, barley, canola kind of stuff. And again, depending on market prices and production levels, these could be half or they could be double. Specialty commercial crops, there's a lot of seed potatoes grown in this particular area now, and the seed potatoes are sold to the northwestern U.S. as seed potatoes. We have the advantage that the winter frozen conditions kill some of the diseases and so on that are critical for seed potato production. So it's kind of a niche market, and a lot of spuds are sold there. So that's about 5,000 per acre or 12,000 per hectare, about 10 times what you get off conventional agriculture. And then you look at the market garden crops, and I just used 93,000 as an average of all those crops. But as you can see, it can be easily more, double if you manage it right. And this is without the support of a lot of research and better management, farming techniques, and so on that could be provided if the support was given to these crops that's given to canola, for instance, or the wheats, etc. The potato operations are huge, multi-million-dollar operations. It's harvesting equipment. It's all big, modern farm equipment, storage facilities, refrigerated, trucking, etc. It's a major operation. To keep this kind of thing going and to expand, you need long-term security. You know, waiting for the city to take over in 20 or 30 years doesn't help you build a new shed. The horticultural crops, a lot of these are sold kind of on-site or to the farmers markets. And the present hectarage is pretty small compared to the potential, okay? I'll jump ahead to what the potential is, but at the moment, it's kind of a slow expanding industry. There's some greenhouses in the area growing vegetables and flowers. There's the field operations, and a lot of this is going to the farmers markets. And in the very recent years, within the last 5 years, there's been kind of a tremendous boom in this area, and I suspect it's going to continue. The other aspect Marv looked at was the labor requirements. So for conventional farming, it works out to about 3.7 hours per hectare per year. Vegetable production is 620 hours per hectare per year. So in 2011, Marv crunched the numbers and figured that this produced about 250 person years of work annually at the present time. And if we were to expand this to the full area, we're looking at 2,400 person years of labor annually. So it's a small area, but a potentially big labor force. In terms of the production amount, if you take the 3,900 hectares we're talking about here of the best soils, at this 93,000 per hectare average, that's 363 million per year. You believe it? It is. For perspective, a month ago in the Strathcona County, the front page of the newspaper said they were going to collect $245 million in taxes in 2013. So this little area of agriculture can do more than all of Strathcona County on taxes. In addition to the income generation, we've got items that you all heard this morning: food security, locally grown food, greener city, etc. Budget shortfalls and surpluses. How can we destroy such an income generator? As agrologists, what's our role here? Are we protecting the public, or are we watching? In 2011, at the AIA Christmas Open House, Premier Redford talked about diversifying and expanding our economy. Those were really good words. We heard the invitation this morning from Minister Leskiw to come forth with our ideas. He's going to be knocking on our doors. Are we going to be ready? The land use framework has similar issues. So I think jumping on this horticultural area is an excellent opportunity. There's a lot of support from the public on this. There's a couple urban public groups that are supporting the farmers and local food production. At the February public hearings, we put together a petition. Over 2,500 people signed. The city hearings at the end of February, 3 councillors supported our position. The Northeast Area Structure Plan was conducted by the city to help assess this. The plan doesn't do justice to this potential. It talks about, having infill agriculture, all the right words, but the hectares aren't there, the commitment isn't there, the long-term security isn't there. There was talk at the hearing in October that maybe we could grow vegetables in the road ditches and on the sides of the overpasses. Imagine that. So I want to jump ahead here. Time's going quick. So another study done for the city recognizes the quality of the land for agriculture, but there's no focus on irrigation and horticulture. It's the conventional, traditional farming. They use census data for their historical data, showing, farmers are over 55 years old now, average, and they're leaving, and farm size is increasing, farmer numbers are going down. It's the picture of a dying industry. There was no attempt to mention irrigation potential, productive potential, none of this stuff. Who wrote this? I don't know. If there were agronomists, agrologists involved. If they were, their names aren't on the report, and to council, I think we should have names there. I think the city should be notified that if they're doing any land use studies, they should have agrologists involved. So what's happening? Fragmentation, freeways, power lines, the conflicts of dust, noise, odor with residences. This is just not a good setting for agriculture to try and mix with the urbanites. This one really shocked me. At the public hearing, one of the developers spoke about how having agriculture within this area sterilizes the land for development. We've all heard the other side. This was a different twist. So there's a lot of studies in the US that show that cities cost money, they cost the taxpayers money. The developers get in there, set up the buildings, sell them, and move on. And the city is left to provide roads, maintenance, LRT, what have you. And it ends up being a drain, but we don't hear that up front. The studies didn't look at kind of a full circle impact analysis of agriculture versus urban development. So when I presented this information at the public hearing, a lot of the councillors were thankful because it's the first time they'd seen numbers like this. These are the two reports that were done. I'm just going to show you some maps here. So this is the ring road here, Anthony Hendy, not quite finished through there. This is the area we're talking about. And this is kind of the present situation where all the light green is grains and oil seeds. These lime green are urban growth areas projected. The pink are greenhouse or nursery. So at this time, there's still, looks like a lot of possibilities for agriculture. This is the land ownership. Interesting, the blue area is the proponents. The developers have been buying this stuff up, and right now a lot of it is still leased back to farmers, but you know where that's going. This is the map that shows neighborhood 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This doesn't look like a recipe for agricultural, horticultural production to me. This jumps back a bit. This is the original Canada Land Inventory soil information for the area. This huge area is all capability class 1. Most of this is Ponoka. There's some patches of peat hills, and on the edge here you get into the Malmo soils. I didn't talk about them. They're finer textured. And so this is kind of the long-term plan. So you can see here's agriculture, here, and here. This green guy somewhere, I can't spot him here. Anyway, oh yeah, private agriculture, this guy is all that's left. City council makes these decisions. And this is based on, the councillors from the various wards. This is where they are. Ward 4 is the area in question. These are the councillors that supported us. Ward 4 was against, along with everybody else and the mayor. So the attempt to reverse this whole direction got shut down at the end of February. But farmers and some of us are still holding out hope. No decisions are going to be made. This is going to be, there's going to be an election this fall. Maybe it'll become an issue, maybe not. And a lot of this infill is going to take, they're projecting 30 or 40 years before development gets there. It's not just happening in Edmonton. I worked near Mississauga last summer. Incredible gobbling up of farmland going on there into housing. Farmers are protesting, but they're getting squeezed out. So what can we do? I think we've had the invitation to provide information. I think good science and economics would go a long ways. The city did not get that from the reports they got. And why or why not, I don't know, but that's the situation. I think we could be advisors to politicians at municipal, provincial, federal levels. They've given us our mandate. Let's give back. A couple of the landowners talked to me and said, you know, if we could bring in some kind of mediation, we could settle a lot of this, because even the farmers are split. There's some that want to continue farming. There's some that are 60, have 20 or 40 acres, and they want to sell and a good price and retire. Their vote costs just as much as the guy who's got a multi-million-dollar farming operation. So the councillors listen to, you know, we got 10 of these guys wanting to sell and 6 wanting to keep. It's a no-brainer. So I think we should strive to become not just strong individuals with our mission and commitment to protect the public, but I think we should do it as an organization. And I think this is where the networks or branches can jump in and have public information settings, meetings, whatever. This is to be developed. Rather than meeting and talking amongst ourselves, let's get engaged with the public so we generate awareness and confidence with the public, so that when we go to inform politicians, municipal or provincial, we'll have credibility and understanding and a voice, and hopefully that'll help us make a difference. Solutions to this: elections is one. I'm not holding my breath on that. Recently in the news, city wants to expropriate some more land around Leskiw, the airport. Why not make a swap? We need provincial government support. I don't think we need to wait till we're forced into a corner. I think we could be proactive. BC did it. You know, maybe there are some hiccups. We can learn from those. Developers want their money. They're not going to walk away from their blue parcels there. They need some compensation. They could be given land in the new area. And some farmers want to farm, some want to sell. We can settle with those and move on.